I retired and the surgeon said to me, like, Trots, you can't do it anymore. And when he said that, I was like, I would shake his hand.
But a bit of a relief, like.
Yeah, I was buzzing. Yeah. Well, I would say buzzing. It was just like a...
What you wanted to hear.
That. Yeah, thank you. Do you know what I mean? Because I think throughout my career, I think I must have had about 13 operations. Yeah. No, throughout my career, it was about 10. And I've never been 100% fit ever. My knee's never been right. And I was just really reflecting on everything. Do you know what I mean? How could I have done stuff different and what it was like just throughout my career and what am I going to do moving forward and what am I actually going to do? Because this is a completely different thing now. So I didn't really know what to do. I was, what was I doing? I was just at home. Because I couldn't really do anything. I was on crutches. And I retired and we had another agent, didn't the same agent, and Colin it was. He said, let's work together with an agency. So I did it, not really. Okay, all I do is need to get a few players and I'll do it that way. Whilst I was still doing props on the side, so it was all right. And it wasn't really something I was invested in then, so I kind of left it for a little bit. And year later, I'm still doing agency now with another company called Valencia, and I'm actually doing really well with them in terms of players. But my really, in terms, especially young players, it was just to kind of guide them, because I feel like from my career, I've done a lot.
Yeah. And
to help them throughout their career in terms of this thing you mentioned, like, Trots, why don't you ask me? Do you know, I'm going into Ferguson. A lot of players might not know that, especially coming from if they're just from the city, not really into that lifestyle. They might not know, so it's more of a
learning from your experience.
Yeah,
it's easy to guide people as much as it is.
Yeah, mentor, but at the same time, knowing the game and knowing the ins and outs in terms of being injured, and you know what I mean, because it's all good when you're playing, but when you're not, it's a different.
Exactly.
It's completely different, mate. You don't know you do know, but you don't really get the support because the manager, the manager's not really bothered, because at the end of the day, he needs you to play to be any use to him. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, what's the point? And so in terms of the support from managers, I didn't really get that, especially at Preston, because Irvine, he was survival mode the first year. It was a relegation fight, wasn't it?
So, the second year we'd done really well.
Yeah, and at the time I was just kind of like, Trots, just maybe get him out on loan or something, which was, he's a manager, he can do what he wants really. But so I left, I retired agency, it's doing well, but now during my year, I'm a therapist, qualified therapist now. Yeah, it's like a therapist. I've got helping a lot of players actually. A couple of Premier League, Championship and lower league I'm helping. Yeah. In terms of the people have retired as well. So I'm So
does that work with the clubs in the PFA?
No,
privately?
A few people know privately. A lot of players know privately.
They contact you direct.
Yeah. Or I might know somebody who tell me someone's going through whatever. Can you help him? And yeah, I've done that. I've been doing that for I'm in my third year now. I'm like a replacement, so yeah, I'm doing that. Therapist.
So you're a therapist. It's good for you that, because you said it never really affected you. You could separate football and your own personal life. So I bet people coming to you and think, how the fuck do you do that? Basically.
Yeah.
And I need help because I'm taking it home with us. I'm falling out with my missus all the time. How do I deal with getting released? How do I deal with getting injured? People are gonna, even on the podcast, the amount of people we get and say, you like, we help people and we don't realise we're doing it. But it's good that people are coming to you to.
It's trust as well, because a lot of players who struggle, especially if you're high profile, that I've been speaking to, they don't know who to speak to, they don't know who to trust, because there's a lot of people out there where, especially if you're high profile, do you know what I mean? If you speak to somebody, what are they going to say?
Make a few quid.
Do you know what I mean?
Selling it to papers and all that sort of stuff.
So then who are you going to talk to if you're a high profile player? Do you know what I mean? The papers all the time. You can't really speak to anyone, especially if you find you might not be interested in football that way either. You don't know what key to, you find yourself isolated a little bit. So also when you retire, like what you do when you retire, it's just where do I find myself? People get depressed, people struggle massively because it's routine for a lot of players. Once that's taken away from him, like, what do we do? Because you think about, you leave school at 16 to go play football, where you're in a bubble. So really, when you retire, you pay about 35, you're probably, in terms of emotion or whatever, you're probably still 16. Do you know what I mean? Because you haven't really had that time to grow.
Yeah, we're still like big kids, aren't we? That's the thing.
Exactly. So you don't really get that time to kind of grow. Yeah. So it's putting stuff in place where it can actually just help you moving forward. And also, like 16, 17, 18-year-olds getting released. They've always dreamt of being a footballer. I'm not there. What do they do? They kind of replace that with something that might be an addiction, it might be whatever, just to try and get. You know what I mean? Especially with parents as well, because if your parents are involved in football in your career, how do you get away from it? Say if you're playing bad and your dad's probably, or wherever it is, so it's on your case all the time. you go back home and you can't get away from it because your dad reminds you of that all the time, or whoever it is. So who do you turn to? Who do you speak to? So just more there, like guiding, and just I've always been into therapy as well because I've been in a treatment room a lot. You kind of see it from a different angle, don't you? The way people, even when people doing managers are doing team talks, I was kind of doing a team talks. I was thinking about why he's saying it and how he's saying it. Do you know what I mean? So it's always been interested in that, and like just people in general. So I feel like I've got a lot to give.
A lot of job satisfaction.
Yeah, like I said, the people I've helped, the players and ex-players. A couple of players now in the Premier League actually who's still playing.
Yeah.
And I've helped him. Do you know what I mean? Just by some people just want to talk to someone. Do you know what I mean? That goes a long way. It does. Just having a voice where someone can kind of relate and understand, and I can kind of give my experience and pass it on to players. Because like I said, it's so tough for players, especially when you even when you're playing or even if you're not, you've got fans who are just on you all the time, calling you whatever,
That's
getting
like because you used to kick it into the stands. That's why they were fucking on you.
Fans didn't bother me.
No,
honestly. But if anyone bothered me, it's probably the lads, because I had a personal relationship with them, so I cared more about what the lads said. If a fan called me whatever, they honestly didn't bother me. Do you know, you got fans chanting and doing whatever, or you this and that. There's probably times where I thought, do you know what, you're probably right. if I was you, I'll probably say the same thing. So in terms of that, it didn't really bother me. It was more the if a manager said something to me or a player, I'd take that personal because I thought I had a personal relationship with him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But why? They used to buy it, everything. And even though it was joking, if it was a fan, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
So that's why I probably when I retire, I didn't think I had anything to prove to anyone. Like the fans, people just try and stay relevant for the fans, don't they?
Yeah.
So I wasn't really. I kind of knew football was always going to be temporary, and I just put that to a side, and so I can focus on something else. But it's hard. It's really hard to do unless it's kind of guided you to do that. Do you know what I mean? If no one's ever done that, then what do? You're retiring, and you're thinking, I've just gone from one because they don't care about you anymore. Like, you know, the managers and the players and the teams. Once you retire, you don't play for them. Like, who cares? Do you know what I mean? And so you come from being up here in a pedestal to down here where nobody even cares.
Yeah. You're only a commodity, really, at the end of the day, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. So, but
does that help you as well, knowing that you've got to focus, even though you're talking to people about it, but that you're obviously passionate about it, and that's your focus.
I remember saying to my wife when I retired, she was like, what do you want to do? I said, the only thing I want to do, because I knew when I got into football how much I wanted to do it and how it made me feel, so I'll know what it is I want to do when I get that feeling. And with this, I've tried I get that feeling with the agency as well, to be fair, it's really good. But with this therapy as well, I get the same. So I just need to be patient, just kind of do what I needed to do whilst I was retiring, and maybe just find it. But it wasn't long until I found it. I didn't realise it was right in front of me, because that's what I've been doing my whole career. Do you know what I mean? Helping the young lads.
And I think now more than ever, you are dropped like a stone. If you're not good enough at 16, 17 by these clubs, and it'll be hard for people to deal with.
Yeah, no. If you're a kid, how do you bounce back from that? Especially if that's the way you've always been.
Focused.
Yeah, like what do you do? How do you bounce back? And that's when you can go off the rails sometimes. And sometimes if your parents haven't been in football, they don't know what to do. They might not be able to. They
don't know what you've been through, do they? And what you're going through.
As far as they can say, they might just think, oh, you just lost a job. You can get another one. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But as a footballer, you've always wanted to do that, and when that's taken away from you, like, where'd you go? Like it's very tough for a young player, and any player. If you even this time now, if you're 25-year-old, you play a lot of games and you can't get a club, given the pandemic and everything else. What do you do? Where'd you go from there? Like you're literally struggling, aren't you? For money, you have to sell your house or whatever it is. Who do you talk to? And I feel like I can help in that. Do you know what I mean?